Hey guys, I'm Azra, and in this Lord of the Rings Rise to War video I'm going to show you a guide about Gandalf the White, one of the best good side commanders in the game, and in this video I will show you how to build him, what troop composition makes sense for him, and also why he is so unique. In regards to Gandalf's title, I would say that strategist isn't really making sense. Gandalf is a troop boosting commander, which is why leader would make more sense. As a second option, support would be okay because of the extra skill points he gets, and he can't have enough skill points. Unfortunately, strategist isn't working so well for him because, well, look at this. Poison and burn damage increased by plus 10%. That doesn't make sense for Gandalf the White. Gandalf the White is focusing on focus damage. And this hasn't plus 10% focus damage here, so fortunately not the best typing he can have over here. So that is just one complaint. In regards to his attributes, it is kinda straightforward. As you see, he has lots of focus. That is okay because focus is going to boost his damage mitigation, especially with White Council. But he has also some skills that deal focus damage while also scaling with focus itself, so it makes sense to main the stat focus. And as a secondary stat, you may want to focus might. This is also very viable for Gandalf the White. His speed stat is decent, but there isn't really anything important to it. You may leave it as it is. As gear right now, I have these items. As you see, the Carver with Smite, Scale Mail with Melee Vigor, Bone Mask with Manipulate, and the Smoking Pipe with Sustain. Let me explain you why Gandalf the White is so strong. Let's start with his bottom respect 0 title Wizard. So Wizard is a strong CC mechanic. On round 1, it's going to stun 2 enemy units while also decreasing the defensive stat by a bit for the next 3 rounds. If you have maxed it out, it's also giving a plus 15 focus. But we aren't going to max it out. We are here to put 1 point just to have the stun. Stun is going to protect you even more against snowballing mechanics. So if the enemy can't fight back, the more surviving troops you are going to have, and the more the snowballing mechanic will work in your favor. Definitely put at least 1 point into Wizard. And then we have Surge. This is on a 2-round cooldown, which means it's going to activate on every 3rd round. It is dealing focus damage by a certain percentage twice, that is important. And it's going to be modified by focus itself, which means the more focus, the more damage you are going to deal with this skill. And each attack is choosing a different target. Now this will become important when you spend points into the White, but I will talk about that in a moment. Then we have Pipeweed Connoisseur. I don't know how to pronounce this, but anyway, what this does is it is increasing the focus of your commander while decreasing the might stat. I'm not quite fond of this skill. You have other points that have priority over this, so you can for the time being just forget about this skill. To the top we have the White. Now this is one of his main kits because the White is allowing Gandalf himself to deal a big chunk of focus damage against one enemy target whenever he attacks. Like, it has a chance of 50% of proccing. It includes normal attacks as well as skill damaging attacks, also special effects of your weapon. Whenever you attack and deal damage, that is a chance of proccing the White, which is why this is so great. And if you can go for this skill, go and max it out, it would make sense. Once maxed out, you get plus 20 focus, which also makes sense because Gandalf has lots of skills that scale with focus. I have shown you one, it is Surge. The next one would be Blindside. On a 2-round cooldown, just like Surge, it activates every 3 rounds. Against one enemy unit, you are going to deal decent amount of focus damage, which scales with focus. And you also stun an enemy target. So this is great. Not just only damage dealing, but also a CC mechanic built into it. Every 3 rounds is stun. That is strong. That is one of Gandalf's strengths. Then to the top, we have Magical Barrier. This is going to increase the defensive stat of your army, which in itself is very great. And it also scales with focus. That is amazing. you should definitely focus into Magical Barrier whenever you have the points for it. So this too is a main part of Gandalf the White. At Respect 3 we have White Council, one of the strongest skills in the game. This is going to mitigate the damage your army is going to receive for the first 3 instances of damage. And this scales with focus. This is big damage mitigation. And it also activates another time. I think it is on round 2. It's going to activate once more. That means you are fighting back snowballing mechanics if the enemy has one. And this game is revolving heavily around snowballing mechanics. So by putting points into White Council, maxing it out, you are on a safe spot against snowballing mechanics. And also High Alert will cover your elemental damage weakness because focus, burn and poison damage will be reduced by 50% if you have maxed it out. And you should definitely max out High Alert for PvP. It is so needed. There are a lot of Witch Kings running out there. But in general, elemental damage will be covered with High Alert. Very important for PvP. To the bottom, we have Champion of the Light. This too is a great skill. Orcs, Urukais and Trolls are going to receive an additional percentage of damage. But keep in mind, this doesn't work against Evil Man, which is why Evil Man troop boosting commanders are kinda safe against Champion of the Light. Whenever you aren't fighting Orcs, Trolls or Urukais, the 7 points spent into this is basically wasted. So I prefer to go with High Alert over Champion of the Light. At Respect 5 we have his title White Rider. This is a debuff, and what this does is the following. Against the enemy army, you throw a debuff which is increasing the damage your army is going to deal against them. And this effect stacks 4 times. If you have maxed it out, it is also giving your army plus 20 speed. But the weakness of this debuff is it can be cleansed. The Mouth of Sauron, for example, who likes to run a helmet with tranquility, can fight you back, and he's going to destroy Gandalf the White with that effect. But generally speaking, be wary of cleansing mechanics, because then 15 points spent into White Rider will have been for nothing. It is what it is. I mean, every commander has a counter to it, and Gandalf the White is going to suffer a lot by Tranquility. To the bottom we have Reinforcement. On round 7, 2 of your allies are going to get HP recovered by a certain percentage. You should definitely put 7 points into this. This is good self-sustain. And then to the top we have Horsemanship. If you are aiming to run his mounted units spec, then you should definitely spend 7 points into this skill too. This is a buff that's going to increase the damage of your mounted units by a certain percentage. Now let me show you 2 builds for Gandalf the White. The first build of Gandalf revolves around his Respect 5 title White Rider. You will need mounted units for this build. It is the strongest build in my opinion. So, at high respect level, this build really starts to shine, but right now my Gandalf the White is at respect level 5, and I'm going to show you a build that works at low respect levels like that. So first things first, I'm going to put a few points into Wizard, just so I have Surge unlocked. This is another attack, it will attack twice. That means that the White gets another source for proccing. So this is the intention of putting 1 point into Surge. But as you see, the White is locked right now, which is why I'm going back to White Rider. Put a couple of points into this. Now White Rider is unlocked, and this is where I go back. Put 2 points into the White, 1 point into Blindside. Just so I get another source of stun, every 3 rounds a stun that is very reliable CC. And then I focus on Magical Barrier, just to have more physical damage mitigation for my army. And then I go back and forth between the White and Magical Barrier. Like this. Let me speed this up for this video's sake. And then I switch over to White Rider, max this out. At this point I have 18 points left. I'm going back to White Council now. This is awesome damage mitigation. It works for PvP as well as for PvE. It is mitigating elemental damage as well as physical damage. And it scales with focus. This is a great skill to have. So as you see, I have chosen this last because it takes a while before we start PvP, but now the time has come to commit into this skill. So 3 points left. I know that there are a lot of Witch Kings running around, which is why I would like to go into high alert, and whenever I get another respect level for my Gandalf the White, I would max out high alert, and when my Gandalf the White is at high respect level, like respect level 14 and above, and I have enough points to spare, I would like to spend them into horsemanship and then follow it up with reinforcement maxed out. Let me also follow up with Gandalf the White's second build, which is revolving around a universal army composition, so you aren't locked into mounted units. Whatever the enemy army is bringing to the table, you can build your army that works best against that specific army. But there is a few things you still want to consider, like you want to have the wizard having your opener stun, that is a strong CC mechanic, then follow it up with 1 point into search just to have enough the white proc chances. But as you see, the white is locked as of now, so we need to unlock it by putting a few points into white council. And here you go, now it is unlocked. We can go back, put 2 points into the white, 1 point into blind side, just to have one more chance to proc the white. And then we also put 1 point into magical barrier to have physical damage mitigation boosted as early as we can. As you see, it is scaling with focus, it is great. And then we are going to go back and forth between the white and magical barrier, like this. 2 points here, 1 point there. Now let me speed this up for this video's sake. And from here onwards, we are going to go back to white council. We are going to put 2 points into white council, 1 point into high alert, and go back and forth here too. Like, these skills are very important, not just only for PvE, even more important for PvP. So go back and forth between these two skills. Once maxed out both skills, now we are good to go to Champion of the Light. It is a strong buff. I know if the enemy has Evil Man, this is like 7 points wasted, and in that case you may want to take these points away from here and reinvest them into Blindside while you are already here. But speaking of Blindside, as you see, 3 points left. It makes sense to spend them into Blindside and you are good to go. And there you go. This is Gandalf the White's second build. It is more universal. It's not the best there is, but you can make do until you have unlocked his Respect 5 title, where he starts to really shine. Alright, let's quickly summarize what strengths and weaknesses Gandalf the White has. So starting with his strengths. He is good in increasing the damage of his army. He does it by throwing a debuff against the enemy army, and then your units are going to deal increased damage against them. So White Rider is facilitating that, and also horsemanship in his Respect 5 build with his horses. This is his strength, boosting the damage of his army. His second strength is definitely damage mitigation, be it like universal with White Council. This works against physical damage as well as against elemental damage. And elemental damage is further mitigated with High Alert, while Magical Barrier is taking care of further physical damage mitigation. His third strength would be the White, because the White is dealing focus damage. Focus damage can't be mitigated by the defensive stat. This is a very strong damaging skill, so Gandalf the White is punching out damage by himself. His next strength is CC. In his case, it is stun. Gandalf the White is opening with stun in the very first round. That is a strong CC mechanic. And then he is following up with more stuns every 3 rounds. Like on round 3, he follows up with Blindside, and that too will stun 1 unit. Last but not least, Gandalf's strength is speed, because whenever you have maxed out White Rider, as you see plus 20 speed for your army, it is very likely that Gandalf is going to outspeed the majority of commanders out there. Like whenever they don't have Convener, it is very likely he's going to outspeed them. Let's also summarize his weaknesses quickly. The first weakness is whenever you are playing him in his mounted units build, well, it is kind of obvious that you are weak against anti-cavalry units, halberdiers or guards of the tower, for instance. His second weakness would be CC. Let's be specific about that. So Gandalf the White is boosting the damage of his army, but they can't deal damage if they are sitting in army stun or army madness. The next CC weakness would be since Gandalf the White himself is dealing damage with the white, like strong focus damage, he can't deal damage if he is in stun or inflicted with madness. So Commander Madness and Commander Stun is also a weakness of him. The third weakness would be Evade, and I think that is an obvious one because how are you supposed to deal damage when the White, Blindside and Surge are getting evaded? So Gandalf himself can't deal damage when the attacks are evaded, but also his troops can't deal damage when they get evaded. His next weakness would be Cleanse. Why am I saying this? Because one of Gandalf's strongest mechanics, like White Rider, can get cleansed. Like one stack of White Rider is definitely going to get cleansed when the enemy has Tranquility or any other cleansing mechanic. His last weakness is like when you are running Gandalf the White in his mounted units build. Mounted units are very hard to conscript and expansive, so that means his weakness is high upkeep costs. And there we go. These are Gandalf the White's strengths and weaknesses. So here we are in the itemization part. We are going to start with the purple gear. I would highly recommend to equip the Carver because this item has all the main stats he wants, like Might Focus and also plus attack for man units. That is just insane. But what is also great about this item is it has the special effect Smite. Smite gives you a 35% chance to do additional focused damage with this, and it scales with focus as well. So this will proc the White. What else is going to proc the White is the Elven Dirk with Pierce. Now Pierce has even a higher chance to proc the White because this has a chance of 50% to deal additional physical damage. So what do you want more? A more reliable chance of having another normal attack proc, like 50% proc chance, or less chances of proccing, like 35% chance of proccing, but followed up with focus damage. Focus damage is ignoring the defensive stat, while Pierce is a normal attack that is going to deal physical damage, which can be mitigated with the defensive stat. Anyway, you have these two choices just to proc the White. In regards to his armor, well, you know me, I would definitely equip the superior Hauberk with fire protection whenever I'm fighting against Witch Kings. Fire damage is going to devastate your mounted units. They are too expensive, which is why you should be on the safe side with Hauberk and fire protection. If you are fighting against strong focus damaging mechanics such as Galadriel or Sauron, or let's say King of the Dead with Oathbreakers, you should definitely go with the quilted armor and focus protection. If you don't need to fear elemental damage, scale mail with melee vigor will do the job. In regards to our headpieces, you can make do with Bone Mask and Horseman's Helmet. These items are great overall. Like the Bone Mask has Might and Focus, focusing his main attributes, followed up by Army HP. This is great overall. And you can also go with Manipulate just to mitigate the damage you're going to get. If you want to cover strong madness mechanics, like let's say you are fighting against Sauron or Grimar, Horseman's Helm with Resolve will do the job. And having a look at his accessories, I think it is safe to say that the Smoking Pipe is the best in slot choice over here. Lots of focus while also giving you some self-sustain. This focus is going to boost every skill that is scaling with focus. And it is providing healing. That is kind of great. The Wizard's Firework is a bit similar, like lots of focus while boosting the plus attack of your ranged units. Infantry ranged units are going to benefit by this the most, like sharpshooters or axe throwers, or how about sentinels? That would work great with this. Then it also has Hunter's Mark, and Hunter's Mark is great to counter evading mechanics, like against Gil-galad that would work greatly, or against the Undying this would also be a nice choice. Or how about Grima, who has invested points into Prudence, so this is a great way to counter those mechanics. Having a look at his golden gear, he had a few options over here, which is why I had to split these by categories. Like in regards to weapon category, his Respect 10 item is by far the best weapon he can have. Generally speaking, in regards to good side Respect 10 item, Glamdring is one of the best items good side has. And you won't regret it by putting points, like by putting the mithril you have into this item. Why am I saying this? Like it has Might and Focus while also providing plus attack for your army, like best attributes you can have over here. Also, Back to the Shadow is a special effect that is making him kinda crazy, because this will also be a source that can proc the white. If you max refine Glamdring, that would mean that you have 60% physical damage as well as 60% focus damage, while your army mitigates damage by 6%. And this is why I think Glamdring is amazing. It works so well with the white. And I know it is a hard way to unlock this item, which is why you can make do with the Noldor Sword. This has also great stats overall, while having Mind Split as a special effect. This is giving you a 50% chance to follow up with additional focus damage. And this too scales with focus. A great secondary choice for Gandalf the White. Looking at his armor pieces, it was a bit difficult to decide which is the best. Like truly, I don't know what is the best. And I need you, high respect level Gandalf the White players, to help me here out. Maybe there isn't even a best in slot choice over here, because it depends on what we want to do, right? If you want to counter elemental damage, like against Witch Kings or Saurons, you would be much better off with the Elven Cloak and Resistance. This will stack with High Alert. That means you will have 80% elemental damage coverage against all sources of elemental damage. But what if you don't fear elemental damage? What if you want to go a more physical or a more general approach? Like the Mithril Coat, less elemental damage coverage, but more physical damage coverage and general coverage? I'm not sure, like it looks very tempting if you ask me. You also have another approach, being the Plate of the Citadel. Also great stats, while also giving your man units a bit of plus defensive stat. Keep in mind, this is kinda locking you to man units because of this effect here, but it has Tactical Retreat. And Tactical Retreat is the biggest damage mitigation you can have, because minus 30% damage mitigation, like generally speaking, not just physical damage, also elemental damage, is kind of insane. But the downside to this is it activates on round 6. The question is, can we make it to round 6? If yes, that would be great, because then we have our skill that is also healing us, like the Respect 5 skill to the bottom we have is going to give us a little comeback. Is this comeback going to synergize enough with Tactical Retreat to be more viable than Mithril Coat with Tactical Maneuvers or Elven Cloak and Resistance? I don't know. Like, I seriously need all the high respect level Gandalfs out there who have tried this out. Like, I seriously don't know. Anyway, let's continue. I think the Grey Wizard's Hat with Tranquility or the Ancient Numenorian Helm with the same effect are the best in slot choices he has. He can just remove any debuff every 3 rounds, and this starts with the first round. Imagine if you are fighting against the Mouth of Sauron who is throwing Harbinger of Darkness against you. So with this you can just get rid of this, and this is just one example. There are lots of debuffing mechanics in the game, and with this you can just cleanse those debuffs. But what if you need to take care of CC like Madness or Stun? In that case, the Cask of Submerged Isle would be your go-to. Aegis is a great effect to have. And looking at his accessories, I think the Mearas Reins are the best in slot option he has in his mounted unit spec. Just look at this, lots of focus while also giving you plus attack for your mounted units and HP. That is insane. And you also have like self-sustain with this. That is great. You could combine your Mearas Reins with mounted unit supply to get the self-sustain, while also equipping the Cask of Submerged Isle to be safe against CC. Or how about you equip Fearless Cavalry instead? If this is maxed out, it will give you 100% stun and madness immunity for your army, but mounted units, keep that in mind, for the first 3 rounds. And then you are free and can equip Tranquility over here instead of Aegis. Or how about you go with the Night Star and Opportune Strike, because this will boost your damage a lot. And then you have to decide, do you want to go with Tranquility and remove a debuff, or go with Aegis and be safe against CC? Or how about equipping Tactical Mark just to be safe against Evade? So we do have a lot of options of combining our items, which is why Gandalf the White is kinda hard to figure out. I have also provided a few examples, like this is what you could be doing. Cover your elemental damage weakness with Elven Cloak and Resistance. cover your debuffing weakness with tranquility, and then decide, do you want to cover your CC weakness or do you want self-sustain? Or how about another example? This is his comeback build with his mounted units. You know, when tactical retreat kicks in, you receive less damage while you heal yourself, you are safe against CC, and you also provide additional healing with Maya, Ras, Reigns, and mounted unit supply. So these are just a few ideas. Gandalf the White, as you see, has lots of options. Go crazy, try it out, and let me know what you think works the best. Anyway, let's jump over to the troop composition and see what makes sense for his mounted unit spec. Let me quickly summarize what you can do if you are running Gandalf the White in his mounted unit spec. So, in regards to his troop composition, you want to have 3 different mounted units. That is the general approach. You are very open to combining them. Like, it could be Ram Riders, Cavaliers, and Cataphracts. When you are fighting Witch Kings, I think it makes sense to always have Ram Riders. They have heat-proof skin. That means they receive less fire damage. What could also make sense against Witch Kings is to swap out your Cavaliers and instead them. How about you include Bree Riders, because Bree Riders have this effect, Steady Will, and they can cleanse the burning effect of the Witch King's Alchemists. In case you don't have to fear Witch King's fire damage, how about swapping out your Bree Riders and Ram Riders and go maybe with an approach like Bow Knights and Cavaliers. This is a more general approach, like this too can work. But keep in mind, whenever you are fighting against Gundabad, they have Warlords. In that case, you don't want to have Bow Knights. Like, a mix between ranged and melee units is going to hurt you a lot because Warlords will destroy that army composition. But I think you get the idea. You have to swap out your units in accordance to what you are fighting against. As long as you have 3 different mounted units in your comp, you are good to go. And in this Respect 3 build, he is very universal. You can combine any troops that make sense against the enemy army. Let's also check out a few battle reports. So in this case, I'm fighting a Gorbag, as you see. I have this gear, the superior Hauberk with fire protection, just in case any Witch King is lurking around. This is the damage we have done, 188k versus 140k. In the detailed view, you see that Gandalf the White is also dealing a big chunk of damage by himself. The gear of Gorbag, that's his gear. Now this Gorbag's gear has some potential in it, but he needs to further strengthen and refine it, and then he's going to be a big problem for us. And what do I mean by that? Now let me show you. I had one more Gorbag fight, which was crazy. And here is a report with the crazily good geared Gorbag player. Let's check out his gear. So he has golden items and almost everything is max strengthened, only the Palantir has 4 stars. And also a few of these items are decently refined. He has Mithril Coat with Barrier, Warhelm with Resolve of Orcs. I like this. This is so good for his only Orc units army. And then Palantir of Orphank with Tactical Mark. Of course, that makes sense. Like meta build, that works just fine. So this is a good Gorbag. And in comparison to this Gorbag player, like my gear is nothing comparable to it. So while I am being a whale, he is already Krakenish level. So yeah, but the point being is, as soon as you have equally good golden gear and also a bit more respect level, this report is going to change by a lot. And this is the outcome right now. We have done almost 140k damage versus 266k damage. Gandalf the White did the most damage with 50k. And yeah, we just need better gear. That's it. Now here is a Sauron report, and let's immediately jump over to Gandalf the White's gear. So one mistake I did was I didn't equip the quilted armor with focus protection. And now I'm paying the price because Sauron has lots of focus damage like Soul Siphon, Overlord, and he's increasing his focus damage with Gorthor. But you know, you can't always be prepared against any commander. So I was kinda assuming that I would be facing Witch Kings, but unfortunately for this guide, I didn't encounter any Witch Kings to show you. If I had equipped the focus protection armor, this would have looked much different. Sauron's gear, yeah, pretty standard meta build gear as you see. Lots of focus and also self-sustain. Let's check out the snapshot page, 180k damage versus 226k damage. And in the detailed view, we see that Gandalf the White once more did the most damage. To quickly summarize what's going on over here is we just lack gear. In the itemization part, I recommended to you the best in-slot gear Gandalf the White can equip. And he is very sensitive to his items, which is why you need to have them to make Gandalf the White work, or else you will have a hard time, like me, with normal purple gear. There will be a big jump in Gandalf the White's performance as soon as you got that recommended gear. But before I let you guys go, let me quickly summarize what Gandalf the White is capable of. So in his mounted unit spec, he is increasing the damage of them by a lot, while also having lots of damage mitigation for his army. And then he also is capable of dealing lots of damage by himself. The downside of that is he needs heavy investment for that to work. Like if you want Gandalf the White to deal lots of damage, he needs lots of golden items, max refined, and also his respect 10 item, fully maxed out and refined. But by then, if you have done that heavy investment, he is going to shine a lot. There will be a big jump in Gandalf the White's damage output. The question is, do you have the time and patience for that? I, for example, am going for it. I'm slowly building him up to that break-even point. It's going to take time, but once I have him there, I'm going to share my reports as well. And that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and consider subscribing. I see you guys next time.